Hi there. This is the Innovation Conversation. I'm Kevin Coop.
And I'm Tom Furphy.
So we thought we were going to take most of the summer off and only come back when there was news. And go figure, pretty quickly, there were a couple of news stories that I wanted to talk to Tom about. My first thought was, oh, I got to talk to Tom about this. So we're back. And the first story that I wanted to talk to you about was a story that ran yesterday. And it was about how Amazon, it was in the Wall Street Journal, and it was about how Amazon apparently has been, the phrase I used was out of The Sopranos, dipping their beak. Basically, one of their conditions for doing business with some vendors, suppliers, products and services was that they had to agree to allow Amazon to purchase stock warrants at a significantly discounted price at some point down the road if they wanted to. And in the case of SpartanNash, a company that our audience knows well, not only did part of the agreement was that they had to be willing to allow Amazon to take a stake up to 15% of the company, making it its second biggest shareholder, and basically give it, this is not the phrase the Wall Street Journal used, but this is the way it reads, give them right of first refusal if somebody wanted to come along and buy SpartanNash. Which, as I think about it, is kind of interesting that they apparently at least were entertaining the possibility of getting into the wholesaler business, supplying a lot of retailers who are competing with Amazon, which is sort of interesting on its face as well. My first reaction to this was the optics aren't great. It sounds a little bit like we're going to make you an offer you can't refuse. I'm not saying they're going to send Luca Brasi, but what was your reaction to the story?
Well, I can understand, the reaction of, is this Amazon throwing their weight around too much? Have they gone too far with this kind of thing? And I like to give, Amazon the benefit of the doubt here because, I was inside the company. I saw its model, its intentions, its aspirations, and, I drank the Kool-Aid, which was really good Kool-Aid. And so I like to kind of give them the benefit of reasonable intention. And I think one thing to be, so yes, they do that practice of if we're going to do business together, I'm big, powerful Amazon. I'm creating, this massive amount of disruption, these massive new business models. And by us doing business together, I can make your company, right? I can, make your company significantly more successful. What I remember and what I still do believe to be the case is that Amazon won't do that, like when it comes to like merchandise inventory specifically. And like if I'm going to do a deal with a vendor, I don't think Amazon is saying, well, I'll give you better vendor terms, or part of the vendor terms of agreement is that I can buy, warrants in your company. I think they tend to do it more with, infrastructure partners, right? So be it, warehouse robotics, right? Be it, the aircraft company that they partner with, right, for their prime air fleet. I can see with SpartanNash, it's dangerously close because they do get goods from SpartanNash. But I'm thinking that they view SpartanNash as an infrastructure partner, right? Where, I think they see the original manufacturer as the vendor of the merchandise, and they would see SpartanNash in that case as the, distribution partner, part of growing network of how to better get products into this, kind of new grocery / local DTC or local delivery network. So, I think it's a smart play on their part. You go and do, and I know I've saw them do it with, various providers in these other areas. And it generally does provide pretty good alignment. And I can also see, as Amazon's building this promise to their customers, relying on these partners, that they would want, if somebody's going to come in and buy that partner, they would want to have a chance, to get that, get that partner also. And even in our companies, we have arrangements where, we may be working with a bigger partner, but we're strategic to them. And, you know, and, you know, they will say, hey, if somebody comes in and tries to buy you, particularly if it's one of their competitors, you know, they want to look at it and they want to be able to come in and put a bid in, you know, to get it outright so that they can maintain that long-term relationship. So I get it. It probably it does, you know, risk towing the line fairly closely, but I do think at its core it can be a really good, you know, business strategy if you know, if properly applied.
Yeah, I get that, and I get and when I first did my commentary, I sort of recognized that you could look at it as Amazon saying, "Hey, listen, we're not just going to date; we're going to we're going to get married, or at least we're going to become engaged with the possibility of getting married." And so it would engender maybe greater commitment. But one of the phrases that stuck out at me from the Wall Street Journal piece was that Spartan Nash felt they could not say no. That Amazon was such a big part of their business that if they said no to the deal, they knew they ran the risk of um, of losing that part of their business. Because if I'm not mistaken, Spartan Nash already had the relationship with Amazon. Amazon was deciding whether to re-up or give them more business, and that became a rider on that decision. So, I mean, I just think I mean, and besides the optics, at a time when, and we'll get to this in a little bit, when Amazon is under enormous amount of political pressure um, in terms of being looked at by regulators and lawmakers, and I mean,
Yeah.
that they are the optics are not good.
And I think optics are really important, right? And especially like it's not like Amazon's going to dramatically increase the value of their company based on the value of the stock they're taking in these other players, right? They're one of the very most valuable companies in the world with a market cap well in excess of $1 trillion. You know, having some small number of billions of dollars of stake in these companies is not going to amount to anything in their total value. However, if they, you know, if they go too far with this,
Right.
and the optics are bad, it could do significantly more damage to them. So I do think they need to be really careful at how they play here. I would assume they're being careful, but I guess, you know, we don't really know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, because if because again, if you're going to take the benevolent view of it, Amazon is basically say, hey, listen, you know, we're not going to. I was going to use a bad word. We're not going to screw you because we own a piece of you. So it doesn't help us. Our goal is to make you successful.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you do it right, like you don't want to. I think if you're putting undue pressure on a deal because of this, you know, that's tough. But you know, in any business negotiation, there's often one side that has clout or power over the other, and this happens. You know, you hope that it's done, you know, relatively well, of course, ethically and relatively equitably, and you know, it's yeah, you wouldn't want to go too far for all of the reasons that Amazon needs to steer clear of.
Yeah. I mean, the interesting thing is that story broke at the same time as Bloomberg had a story about how basically, and this is not a new story, but they put a lot of meat on the bones about how Amazon manages people, and these are people, delivery people, warehouses, things like that, you know, almost exclusively by algorithm, and basically have taken people out of it so that people, I mean, and listen, you know, you can always find cases that look bad as opposed to cases that look good. And I get that. I'm in the journalism business. It's a better story if you find the problems as opposed to the, you know, right?
Yeah.
I get that. But there were stories in there about people who were really, these were, you know, veterans, were hardworking, the whole thing. And for weird reasons, the algorithm was not in sync with the realities of what it took to, you know, sometimes you can't make a left turn in the truck. You got to make a right turn for lots of reasons.
Yeah, sometimes you have to stop and go to the restroom.
Right. And well, not always apparently with Amazon, because sometimes you pee in a bottle, but right, exactly. And because the algorithms don't allow for those vagaries, people were losing jobs and were being fired by bots.
Yeah.
And the ability to appeal the whatever those decisions were laborious, and it felt like they were talking to bots as they were appealing the process. And again, the optics on this are just terrible in terms of, you know, um, people, just the company being out of touch with the realities of what's going on in the world and being far more focused on efficiency than on a lot of other issues.
I think there's lots of examples of the platform slash algorithm that is Amazon, right? And it operates very much, it's a machine. It operates based on machine learning and AI. And, the bulk of what it does is really good. If it does 98% of it really good, but the 2% that it doesn't, and by the way, at their scale, 2% is a lot, right? Even if it's 0.2%, it's a lot. Those are the cases where you hear it even on the, you hear it on the product side, the first party and third party merchant side, when it comes to either counterfeit products or not counterfeit products, first party, third party. There's lots of, compliance issues around, just generally around the merchandise side, lots and lots of examples of that. And I can totally see them running their logistics partner, network that way. And most of it works really well. But it does feel like there's a lot more opportunity to apply just common sense and, human, I don't want to say compassion, because I don't think Amazon's necessarily compassionate, but there's just, human reason, and just good common sense that there should be more opportunity to do that. And particularly at a time now where optics are so important. But again, it's not just about optics. Lots of times it's about doing the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, I've been accused over the years. I mean, I've been writing about Amazon as long as I've been doing Morning News Beat. So it's been 20 plus years, right? And I get accused all the time of being a total Amazon fanboy, right? How much, once a month, how much stock do you have in Amazon? It's like, yeah, guys, do I look like I can afford Amazon stock? And, but I have to be honest. There's the sort of the pieces are adding up to the point where I, as somebody who is an avowed Amazon user and fan, am beginning to sort of feel like, I felt back in the, I guess the 70s when I didn't eat green grapes because I felt sympathy for the farm workers. And now I'm thinking, what's the line at which I say, I just can't shop with this company anymore because they've just gone too far. And I wonder if that's going to be a kind of a broader problem for them, because perception does matter. And it seems to me that if they put 10% of the brain power and commitment and, quite frankly, financial resources behind fixing these 2% problems that they put into solving other problems or creating other businesses, right, or whatever, they fix these problems. They could be the world's greatest employer. I mean, by far. And
I agree.
It is a choice they're making.
I agree. This is not the first time in this innovation conversation we've posed the question, at what point will they go too far, and at what point will shoppers turn away? Right. And I think it's a very valid question to ask. It's a question they should continue to ask themselves. And I have to imagine somebody inside there is asking themselves that, but they do need to do more of that. And yeah, I don't know if it's 10%, if it's 1%, but some percentage of their brain power should go toward keeping this in check and fixing it.
Yeah.
I do think it could be a problem. I've always said from the time I was at Amazon, since the time I left, and we invest in the e-commerce space, and e-commerce space is catalyzed by Amazon's disruption.
Yeah.
I've always said that I don't think any competitor could take down Amazon, but I think Amazon could take down Amazon, right? It could become such a powerful model that it almost kind of, for lack of a better term, kind of runs amok,
right,
and eats itself.
Yeah.
And we could be seeing some of that.
Yeah.
And you really hope that that they're able to kind of get in and disrupt that, that cycle sooner rather than later.
I mean, the movie metaphor I used on Wednesday was, the HAL 9000 computer, that it becomes so dedicated to the mission that it can't see outside the parameters to see what's really going on.
Well, when you have machine learning, further teaching machine learning, that can happen.
Yeah. And the shame of it is, I mean, it was funny. I mean, on Wednesday, right, I've got the story about dipping its beak. I got the story about the algorithms and the employees. But in my FaceTime, I do the story about the way they've made making returns, even from Whole Foods, so frictionless that it's just easy. And you go, that's the model. They do that stuff so well.
That's what you love.
It's crazy. Last story, and this is one that's actually running Thursday on Morning News Beat. Lina Khan, the new chair of the Federal Trade Commission, who has been talked to a lot over the years about Amazon needs to be broken up. Amazon is, has real antitrust issues, while saying at the same time that antitrust needs to be redefined for a new age. And I keep making Star Trek jokes saying that Amazon's about to feel the wrath of Khan, because I can't help myself. But now Amazon apparently has formally petitioned to say any decision the FTC makes regarding Amazon, she should recuse herself, because she's so on the record about what she thinks. Your reaction to that?
Again, I think the optics are terrible, but I get it, right? I mean, imagine if you had Game 7 of the World Series, and there's an ump that stated, well, I'll say his or her,
right,
outright,
he's wearing the other guy's jersey, right? Exactly.
Dislike of the Mets, right? And the Mets are in that game, and that ump is behind the plate. Right. It's tough, and I just don't think that you can expect a fair review with somebody that's been that biased going in. And frankly, it probably compromises, the government side of that argument as well. Put somebody in that's more, or at least hasn't declared a side. You can't go wrong by doing that. It just seems like you'd have to ask for that if you're Amazon. But that doesn't support good optics either.
Yeah. Politically, it seems to me this is the one issue that seems to unite both sides, right? There's actually bipartisanship around an anti-big tech thing. By putting her as the chair, the Biden administration is making a statement. It is a statement that is backed up by a lot of people in Congress in both parties. It's going to be interesting. I suppose I would be shocked if she recuses herself.
I can't.
But maybe what they're doing is they're setting up their legal argument because they're going to, whatever the FTC decides that they see as anti-Amazon, Amazon's going to appeal it in court.
Right. Yeah.
They can afford some pretty good lawyers. So maybe this is going to be one of their arguments. Maybe they're setting up their lawsuit in advance now. But it's interesting. It's never a dull moment.
Biggest threat to Amazon is the regulatory challenges they're facing and will face going forward. Yeah. They have to navigate it in the right way. It has to be right for customers. It has to be right for shareholders. It has to be right for the environment. And it's critical. It's going to be a little dicey. I think that's far and away the biggest risk, to the value of the company.
So, as you were saying that, last question, does Jeff Bezos stepping down as CEO, he's still chairman, obviously he's still going to be involved in the business, right? He's got biggest shareholder.
He makes it back from space.
Right, if he makes it back from space. Did you see, I had the story in Morning News Beat, how they did a poll and thousands of people say he should stay.
I know. That's just hard.
Right?
So
who
hard.
does these
I know.
It's so terrible. Is Amazon in a better position to separate itself from these past practices, to navigate the politics of this? Is it in a better position to do that with Bezos not in the CEO's chair, simply because Andy Jassy has the ability to make it less personal, or is it doesn't not matter?
Well, I think, yes, I think Andy will, right, because Andy's not Jeff B.
Right.
So yeah, he'll have a different personality, or kind of impression or viewpoint from the public. But I don't know if Andy will be that kind of leader, right? So I don't know. It'll be interesting. Andy's he's really good. There's a reason that AWS is as big and successful as it is. He's tough.
Yeah.
Which Amazon shareholders generally should be excited about. But the downside, or the risk of being really tough and ruthless, is all these other issues we just talked about.
I guess I wonder, does it help them a little bit that he won't be quite the personal lightning rod that I think that Jeff Bezos has become in some ways?
It could, but I just don't know if the next one up would be that. When you see Google, going through what they're going through, it's kind of not really the person, right? It's not Larry, Sergey, or Eric. It's I'm not going to get his name right, but Pinchar, the current CEO. He's the one in the seat taking the heat now.
Yeah.
But it's really about the thing that is Google. So yeah, maybe, but I don't know. The thing that is Amazon is pretty polarizing in itself.
Interesting. Well, I suspect we may have thought we were going to be off till Labor Day, but I suspect that we'll probably be visiting again before too long.
Oh, you worked me all summer.
There you go.
Oh, it's okay.
That's good. Have a good one. Appreciate it.